What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about mana today, Decentraland. Hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Let's get into it, my friends. Let's talk about it here. So here we are at 32 cents, essentially. We hit a low of 25.7 cents this past week. We've got 9 hours left in the week here. That is a higher low. While that's nice to have a higher low, it's rather disheartening that every single time we've gone to this upside, we've come basically back down to the same areas. Well, yes, we do have a higher low, and that's a little bit positive, I suppose. We really were looking for a breakout on this last kind of attempt up here. Certainly, what we were not looking for was something that brought us all the way back down here. So to me, I don't necessarily know if that's condemning for mana, if that means that it's unable to see the prices that we've talked about this whole cycle for the past 2.5 years. I don't know if that takes them off the table, but it does at least bring to the table the possibility that we should rethink things, right? We should restructure our thoughts of this cycle. Okay, if we go back, we look at the all-time history, we look at the monthly time frame. I want to just be clear, okay, in what I'm saying here. From a high to a low, the minimum target is still 1451. Okay, the maximum target, I don't think 110 is doable. Mana likes its 1886, but I don't think it's going to go there. I think 4550 and 1451, I think this target area is still perfectly acceptable. By the end of the cycle, I fully see that mana will be in this area. Okay, nothing has changed in that note. But while we've heavily been expecting 4550, it might be time to consider, especially with this move down over the past few months, it might be time to consider that something lower might be where we go. So mana being at about 32 cents now, that would put it at not even a 100x capability. That's still fine, right? That's still, I mean, no 100x, but even at a minimum, that's still a 45x from the current price. That's still not bad at all, right? That's, you know, for crypto, that's kind of small, I suppose, but for the average investments that you see in the world, that's actually not that bad at all. It's actually very, very desirable. From a high to a low, last cycle we went all the way up to our 1886 to the 200. We're pulling back now. We've been finding support at the 100 and the 886 level. Now this is a really deep retracement. Normally whenever you hit the 1886, you don't go below the 1272, and you can see you found a little support there, and you've been finding resistance on it time and time again. Each time you find resistance on the 1272, it opens the door to go lower in this retracement, and that's really not a good thing, right? We don't want to see that, and so far you haven't really. You've at least held the 886, and that's good. You're holding this top side of the range. I think that's good. What we need to see now to really determine how high we're going to go by the end of the cycle is it going to be $14? Is it going to be $25? Is it going to be above $45? How high is it going to be? We need to experience this breakout. We need to see where on the totem pole, how high up does it take us, right? Do we stop in a month, at the end of this month, at the end of next month, whenever this breakout move comes to an end, to a finish, right? Where does it take us? Because here, last cycle, right, you see the breakout move here, right? We're consolidating. This was your breakout move right there, right? You can see that. That was your breakout move. This was part of all the same move, sure, but the breakout move specifically happened here. This was your breakout move. This was the move leading up to it, okay? So talking about the breakout move, if we see something like this, okay, that's just miraculous. It takes us all the way up to new all-time highs by the end of the breakout move. Okay, sure. $45 above that, it could be put on the table again. Or not put on the table again. $45 is still on the table, but it could be taken more seriously, where now it's taken a step back on its seriousness, I would say. If we see a move that the breakout move brings is something that just takes us to $1.86, that's fine. That's phenomenal. That's great growth. But likely, if we stop here and we consolidate here for a couple months or a few months or even a month, if that's our stopping point, you know, that takes time out of the remaining amount of time that we have in the cycle. That likely would prevent us from seeing higher targets, right? If we're not, let's see, from a high to a low, if we're not above $3 by the end of this breakout move, essentially we're at 32 cents now. If we don't see something that's on the lines of like an 8 to a 10x or more by the end of this move, which I would expect to happen by the end of either this month, February, likely it starts by the end of this month, but I think that the move will come into full maturity sometime next month in March. And again, when I'm talking about the move, I don't mean the whole cycle, right? I just mean like this here from a low to a high, that was a move. This move here, that was your breakout move. This was your cycle ending finale move, right? It's all different moves, all part of the same move. Yes, the same cycle. We haven't even gotten started yet. We're equivalent right now. This is equivalent to essentially all of this, right? It's just but more boring. Mana last cycle, okay, whenever it hit its 1886 high to low, come on now, 1886 200 area, it saw, let's see, if you go date and price range from a low to a high, you saw a 400, basically a 420x, okay, in 20 months time, okay, from your low. You really started to get moving. Whenever you started to get moving on your breakout move, let's say from this low here, we'll take the low of the range, sure. When you started to get moving, it took you about a year, 12 months, and you did a near 100x, near 100x. So not from the low, right? If we take the low and we project out, we go, it was 20 months, right? From the low to the high. If we go here, 20, let's see, yeah, that's 20. So if we go 20 months from the low, 20 months would put us out in March of 2026. Now, I'm not saying it's impossible for the bull cycle to be right translated and for it to go a little bit longer than what the average person might be expecting. I'm not saying that. And in fact, wouldn't it be ironic if at the beginning of the cycle, I'm going to take the charts off for a second. At the beginning of the cycle, a lot of people, you can see the litter box right there. I'm moving. That's not the best image, I guess, but whatever. I'm in the process of moving. I've got multiple litter boxes. That's not the only one. That one's not full of litter. We just don't know where to put it. So it's here as a conversation piece, apparently. A lot of people, wouldn't it be ironic? A lot of people were assuming that the bull market would be left translated. Wouldn't it be ironic if it was right translated instead? What do I mean by left translated and right translated? Left translated just means it ends earlier. Right translated means it ends later, essentially, right? That's all it means. So later than expected, shorter than expected. A lot of people were expecting this cycle to be left translated. Wouldn't it be ironic if it was right translated instead? It did the opposite of what most people expect. I certainly would not expect that the cycle goes into 2026. That's not my interpretation at the moment. So 20 months, I don't think we have time for that, right? Even from the current price, that's 14 months away. That still gives us enough time based off of what we saw last cycle to see a 100x. If we were to end the cycle sometime, in early 2026, I suppose it's possible we could still see something over a 100x, right? Comparing it to last cycle there. That was phenomenal growth last cycle. A lot of coins did not have phenomenal growth last cycle. Mana was one of them that did. So I don't expect that we're going to get a 400x from low to high this time, right? I think from a low to a high, sure, over a 100x I could see, but anything like multi-100x from the low, not from the current price, that's a bit harder for me to see. So let's assume we have less than 12 months, because again, 12 months from here would put us in February 2026. Let's assume that the cycle ends for Mana. I'm thinking most coins, their bull cycle will come to an end in between October to December of 2025 this year. So somewhere in that time frame. Some earlier, some later, but most of them I think will be in October to December. That'll be their high. So let's go here for November, right in the middle there. 9 months. 9 months time. And we haven't gotten started yet. If this month is the month that we begin, that's cool. But here, 9 months time, at the end of the cycle, the last 9 months, we did a 40x, okay, in the last 9 months, okay. To be fair, by the time that we had already gotten to that point, right, we've already seen a 11x, or yeah, that's basically an 11x right there. So by that point, we had already seen an 11x from our lows. We are not at that point yet. We're actually very near our lows. So I think that we've got more reason to explode right now, probably more so than a 40x, right? What I'm trying to say here is last cycle, in the last 9 months, we moved up 40x. Could we assume this cycle, and I was just saying that last cycle was really strong for Mana. I don't expect this cycle to be as strong for Mana. Clearly, but clearly for how it's performing right now, but I just mean overall, I don't expect it to be. So how could I say, if 9 bars are left, how could I say that we're going to see greater than a 40x? My answer to that would be, we haven't moved up yet. We haven't had anything yet. So we're overdue for some kind of eruptive move. I think we've got a lot of catching up to do. And I would assume that we see something that's larger than a 40x. You know, this minimum target on the fibs here at about 1340 being at about a 51x. To me, that's already making it seem a lot less likely that we see anything above $20, right? To me, that's what it's making it seem like. Because what, we're going to end in December at 10 months from now. We're going to end in October 8 months from now. And last cycle, which was a very, very good cycle, we saw 420x overall, where this cycle we're doing bupkis. You want to see something that's stronger than the cycle finale of last cycle. Okay, but how much stronger? It's not going to be double. It's not going to be triple. A little bit more, sure, but what would a little bit more be? The nearest target would be the 2272 there. We take this high here from the all-time high to the cycle low. That 1272 lines up perfectly with that, and that is your minimum given target. I'm not saying I think that mana stops below $15 by the end of the cycle. I'm just saying, to me, especially with what we've seen in the charts, it's become a little bit more clear or obvious or likely even that we do stop below $15. It's very possible. We don't know until we've seen this move, until we see this full move breakout. Okay, I know I've got a lot on the charts here, but just pay attention. I'm going to delete this. You can notice in this range there's going to be an orange line and two white lines. The orange line is the golden extension of this move. The two white lines are the golden retracement of this move. The golden ratio itself, right? The orange line there, the extension, the two white lines there, the retracement of this move. This is your golden zone. That zone right there between $1.67 and $2.12. And I was saying, by the end of this move, if we want any hope at all to keep 40 on the table, $40 or more on the table, probably at this point something that's even above $15 on the table, when mana breaks out, and it will break out, it's going to break out. It's not a matter of is it going to break out, it is going to break out. But when it breaks out, we need to see a move that takes you through the golden ratio zone, not just on the retracement here, but on the overall extension of this move up here, the golden ratio right there as well. We need you to get above there. We need you, I said $3, but $2.91 and 2.9148 would do fine. If we can get above the 786, if we can tear all the way through the golden ratio and hit the 786, 886 area or higher, cool. Targets $15 is likely not the stopping point. We're likely going higher, but we have to catch up. If we don't catch up, if we don't play catch up, we're not going to catch up. There's not a lot of time left in the cycle. If the cycle goes on until 2026, that's different. Or, you know, this whole video is a bit skewed then, right? But my perspective then would be skewed on the whole cycle, because I genuinely am expecting that Bitcoin's cycle ends probably October of this year. Earliest I would say is July, but probably October. Probably no earlier than really, like, yeah, I don't think it'll end earlier than October. I think it'll be early October. Bitcoin ends. The average altcoin tops off a month after Bitcoin's cycle ends. So that would put November for mana. The only way that this video, like the biggest way to poke a hole in this video, would be to explain to me why this cycle deserves to go into 2026. And so far, I don't have anything that would suggest that. There's nothing that suggests that the cycle would go into 2026 other than contrarianism. And contrarianism, for those of you that don't know, it's essentially a method of thinking that says, if the majority of the population thinks this, I by default am going to think this, right? It's actually how I go about analyzing media pieces and news, right? If you're watching the news, especially like ABC or CNN, MSNBC, Fox, whatever, you never know what the truth is. They're never going to tell you the truth, but you know what the lie is. You know what it is. It's whatever they're saying the loudest, what they want you to hear, right? The point of the media is not to help you. It's to share information. And why do they want to share that information? What's the purpose of sharing that information? It's to gear you, to trigger you emotionally, to engage you, to make you watch their content or promote an agenda. All I'm trying to say is most people are wrong in that sense, right? Most people, when they think they're informing themselves, they're actually wrong. Most of the time, most people are wrong. If most people are right, if you have a hard time wrapping your head around that, why do most people lose money in the markets, right? If everybody's right all the time, why do most people lose money in the markets? It's because most people are wrong. So using that kind of logic, if most people are wrong, then with everybody the only kind of logic that I could have that dictates that we could go into a cycle that lasts until 2026, a right translated cycle, would only be because in the beginning of this cycle everybody was expecting it to be left translated, and there's still a lot of people who expect it to be shorter, and potential, and not only that, there are a lot of people, myself included, who expect the cycle to end at the end of this year. So through contrarianism, there's actually a very good case to make that the cycle could end in 2026. But that's more of a subjective kind of opinion. That's very speculative, to say the least, right? There's nothing in the charts, to me at least, that suggests that we would go until 2026, other than the fact that crypto as a whole has been lagging. It's been lagging, but does that mean that we're going to have a longer cycle because it's been lagging, or does that mean we're going to have a shorter cycle, something that's less eruptive, something that's less explosive because we've been lagging? I don't know. And the only way, I think, to really determine that is to see how we break out, to see how we're performing here with this golden ratio. So I've shared my thoughts. I've told you everything that I want to say. You're at 32 cents now. Is Mana at a good price to buy? Hell yeah, it is. It's at a really good price to buy. I would buy more here, honestly. If Mana wasn't one of my biggest bags, I would buy more here. But I've got interests elsewhere, right? I want to diversify a little bit, so I'll probably do that. I wouldn't look at this wick here as a low. I would look at it as a scam wick. I would more look at this as your low, personally. That's what I would look at. If we're looking at it from a low to a high here, you basically held your 786 to 886 area. It's perfect. It's literally perfect. Now what you need to do, first things first, get above 41 cents. After that, we need to start recovering. We need to start getting above these highs, and at that point, we'll be in a breakout move from this overall accumulation phase here. Hopefully, it is an accumulation phase. I think it is. Hopefully, it's not a distributive phase at the bottom here. That would really suck. That would put us all in jeopardy. But if it is an accumulation phase, we'll be getting above 41 cents very soon, probably have a V-shaped recovery. This next attempt, we've had 1, 2, 3 touches up here. This next attempt, the fourth one, should be the attempt. There should be no excuses this time that breaks us out. If it's not, we've got a problem. If it's not, we genuinely have a problem. We'd have to rethink everything. Mana wouldn't be seeing new all-time highs. If you can't get above this, if you reject one more time, if that's the fourth time, I would expect that we go lower. It would be bad. But you generally don't reject things 4 times. It's 2 or 3 times, and then you break through. So this breakout move, which is coming, it's coming now. We're on a weekly basis. It's coming over the weeks. It's undeniable at this point. It is coming. How high does it take us? If it takes us less than $2, that's not good. Or it's not bad. It's just not what we're looking for. Okay. I'm sure a move up to $1.50 from 32 cents, everybody would be ecstatic about that. But we want to see something that is above 291. We want to see that. I want to see something at least to this blue line, if not higher. All right, that would make me very ecstatic for Mana. That would make me definitely put $45 back on the table. We might even consider higher targets than that. Okay, it's still on the table. It's just less considered right now because of just the lack of life that we've seen. We need to see some life. And if not, what life you give will help us determine where we may end up at the end of this run. So I got nothing else for you guys. If you liked the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you all for being here. See you on the next one. Bye-bye.